Occasionally I'll be speaking with someone from out of the state, and they'll see a picture of Oklahoma City and say the late 1940s, early 1950s, when it's just apparently a sea of oil wells. And the first thing in their mind, in looking from a 2013 perspective, is but you guys must have a lot of things to clean up today. And it gives me an opportunity to talk about the wonderful relationship between the industry and the environmentalists and how they've been working for years, and we don't consider it nearly the problem today that we did when OERB started 20 years ago.
No, that's true. That was the original founding principle for the OERB. We had a mission of environmental restoration of abandoned and orphaned well sites, and we've cleaned up almost 13,000 well sites to date at a cost of about $80 million, and that's statewide.
Not to the taxpayers.
None of this is taxpayer money. This is all voluntarily funded through a 1/10% fund that, from 1/10% of the sale of all oil and gas in the state, goes into the fund that funds the OERB. And a portion of that paid by the producers, working interest owners, and royalty owners. And so we have a two-pronged mission. One is environmental restoration, and the other is education.
Been an emergence between the Marginal Well Commission and the OERB. Can you give us a little background on that?
Yeah, the Marginal Well Commission was founded in the early 1990s, and it was an attempt to save the marginally producing, and when we say marginally, those that had a very small margin of profit with them. We think of them even as stripper wells. Some people used to refer to them as strippers that were very low production, but had some high costs associated with them. But what we learned was every time we plug one of those wells, the odds of ever bringing that well back into production are very, very, very slim. So it was the state's function during a time of low prices, when the commodity price of oil and natural gas was very low, to say what can we do to preserve these well bores for future production. And so the Marginal Well Commission was established at that point in time to find ways to help the small, mostly the small mom and pop operators, we called them, be able to continue to produce those wells, because it's a great source of tax revenues for the state of Oklahoma, but it also helps a lot. For example, a lot of farmers were able to keep their farms because they had mineral interests in these stripper wells, and in order to keep those functioning, this organization was founded.
I'm unaware of any other agency or group in Oklahoma where industry pays the cost of such things, voluntarily pays the cost of such things as cleanup, and then voluntarily pays the bill. And it's not a tax, it's not mandatory. Right. Are you aware of anything comparable?
I'm not aware of anything else like it. It's unique, and it's rare that that an industry asked to be taxed or asked to have a levy to help promote education and environmental restoration. It's really unique.
What are other states doing?
There's a few that are trying to pattern after Oklahoma, but we have been the gold standard. I know Tim has made several trips along with Mindy, our executive director of OERB, into different states to speak about the program that we have here.
Yeah, it's very unique. A lot of states are interested, especially some of the newer producing states are interested in how we set the program up and what all we have, especially in the educational realm. They're really interested in learning about how we got that set up and got that across the state. If I might mention, as to education, we're in 95% of the school districts in the state of Oklahoma. We've touched about 1.5 million students with either our curricula or our programs, and we have trained 11,000 teachers across the state in our various curricula. We have curricula from K through 12. We have fossils to fuels for grade school. We have petroactive for middle school. We have little bits for early elementary, and then we have core energy for high school.
Danny, tell us from your perspective why you got involved with OERB in the first place.
I was fascinated by the training. In fact, I had the opportunity to go to a teacher training program just this week where they bring master teachers in to train the new teachers, and how they can put their science and math curriculum, the OERB's curriculum, into their classrooms was absolutely fascinating. To be able to take now that and meet the state's core, they used to call it the core curriculum, and so they can OERB's working directly with the State Department of Education to make sure that the curriculum that we're putting there helps those teachers master and meet the state standards for science and math in their classrooms. So we're using our industry to help them show how they can use science and math to meet the standards that are being expected to be taught in those math and science classes.
Let me ask each of you now, what do you want the general public to know about OERB? If someone finds out you're connected with OERB, they probably have different levels of competence in what it stands for and the roles. What does the general public need to know?
Well, I think the general public should
Well, let
understand.
me interrupt and add to that. And how can they help?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think the thing they need to know is they need to know that the oil and gas industry is extremely important from an economic standpoint to the state of Oklahoma, and that we are interested as an industry in giving back, and this is how you can see that in action. And if they have any questions, if they need any other information, OERB.com, go to that website. There's places where you can get additional information on all our curriculum. But we have 2 missions: environmental restoration of abandoned and orphaned well sites, and then education. And not everybody knows about the education piece. I think pretty well most of the people in the state have seen our commercials about the environmental restoration piece. And if you want to get involved, go to that website. If you're in the industry and you want to be a Petro Pro, we'd love to have you. If you have children or friends and relatives that you think would like a challenging, well-paying job in the oil and gas industry, tell them to get on there and look at our careers tab. We've got a lot of information about our training and curricula and scholarship opportunities there.
All right, Danny, what would you like the general public to know?
I think as an employer, I would like for them to know that this is a great opportunity to keep our brightest and sharpest in the state of Oklahoma, that they don't have to leave anymore. For a long time, the perception of this industry was we were a dinosaur. We were kind of on the outs, but the new technologies with the digital communications and the digital things that we're developing is on the cutting edge of any industry in the world. And to me, what I want to say is we need those bright minds, those innovative thinkers that we're having coming out of our colleges and universities and high schools. There's a place for you, and we need you here in Oklahoma.